Hello, YouTubers. This is another session where we continue to build a decentralized social media platform called Taarafo. Taarafo is a platform that allows any community, any group of the people in the world to spin up their own social media platform instance and be able to connect to other instances, at the same time, so they can share ideas without being governed, tracked, their privacy being violated by one big smart guy in the Silicon Valley. And today I'm joined by a very special person, a person that I've known for almost 10 years now, almost a decade now, Josh. Almost 10 years. He is Joshua McCall is a friend. He's a brother first, just like family. He's a friend, and he's a very smart software engineer. Him and I went through a lot of different companies, a lot of different projects. We built enterprise systems together. If you saw in the .NET Conf, Daniel Roth was demoing the insider trading compliance platform. Most of the UI work and the genius that went behind that work and a lot of the things that I learned myself came out from this gentleman here, the man with a heart of gold. How you doing, Josh?
Good, good. That's quite an intro. Huh? That's quite an intro.
Unlike any of you might speculate, Josh actually was a Japanese citizen. Josh, do you want to tell people that story? Go
I was a Japanese citizen. That's it. No, my dad served in the Air Force, and I was born over in Japan, and then I was imported to the U.S. And so we've got all kinds of Japanese memorabilia and everything growing up and out in the middle of the country. So I've got kind of a cool trivia fact that whenever someone asks for a fun fact, I can say I'm Japanese. But
Right. Joshua is from Iowa, from the state of Iowa. We hang out a lot when I lived there, and we worked in a lot of different companies. And one of the things I really appreciate about Josh McCall is that he has the calm demeanor and the ability to kind of be able to communicate ideas and discuss rationally without getting too emotional into things. He does get emotional sometimes. He's not perfect. He's a man. He's a flesh and blood, just like everybody else. But at the same time, I wish I could learn something like that from him. I am a bit calmer today than I used to, than before. Because I hang out with Josh McCall, and of course, as you can tell from the background, Josh loves what is it? Guitars.
of course.
Guitars. He loves. This is his passion. This is his hobby. I'm not big on music myself, but Josh definitely loves that stuff. So, Josh, do you want to tell people a little? I gave you a little bit of intro, but I want you to tell people a little bit about yourself, your experiences. What technologies you are actually had, the opportunity to work with on an enterprise level and actually deliver end-to-end solutions for a big companies around the world. I know John Deere, there's Microsoft, there's all these different companies you've been to. Go ahead, tell people who you are.
Sure. Yeah. Like Hassan said, I'm from Iowa. Went to Iowa State College here and stuff. And then I've tried to bounce around between a number of different technologies or approaches or frameworks or whatnot. But I keep getting pulled back or circling back to the front end, that user experience, that really kind of that last layer in between the customer and the application. And so I through that I've got a broad range of experience of back end tools or frameworks and stuff. But it keeps coming right back to the front end and stuff. So what we end up doing React and JavaScript and CSS and whatnot, but then incorporating that into our components and how we build that as part of our framework to be able to deliver a solution. So basically every technology you could think of plus the front end technologies. That's kind of where I kind of live. But
So you did it all. You did Java, I did PHP. You did work with me when we were writing Scala. You did Node.js. You did C Sharp, of course. You did React and Blazor. You did it all. You actually went, around. You did the full circle. By the way, just so you guys understand, Josh doesn't just know React. He built end-to-end solutions in React. And if you go a little bit further in my channel in my videos, you will notice that there is a place where we combined Blazor and React together. And I couldn't tell you so much like at the beginning, Josh was like, okay, there's this Blazer thing. We heard that before, right? This is just two friends coming together and putting two technologies. Like we're literally modeled and simulated our friendship with two technologies running at the same time on the same page. It was crazy. Do you remember that one? When you had to do a little bit of a cringy moment, I said, well, if there's someone out there and you were sitting over there and you just came over, some people said that's the cringiest moments, one of the cringiest moments I've ever seen ever. So
But on
he's not.
purpose, we made it cringy on purpose, right?
Yeah,
That's
but
of course.
that's how you scare away the normal people. Just keep the nerds. So he's not just someone who's going out there doing this kiddie, oh look, hello world and React. He actually built entire solutions. I've seen Josh McCall with my own eyes sitting down in a team of 30 engineers and doing DevOps. Fixing local problems where people didn't know Docker. Do you remember back in the day where Docker wasn't a thing? Spinning up VMs so everybody, whether you're using Windows or Linux machine, what doesn't matter what you're using, you get to see, you get to, have the same experience, and at the same time going there and negotiating with clients. So he's a PM skill set, DevOps engineers, UI engineers, and he has an appetite for actually doing really rigorous, very focused back end development. I've seen Josh firsthand building entire end-to-end solutions with me, and this is why I'm bringing him into this channel. I'm pulling these experiences and bringing the light, on people that are not just smart and they're good engineers, but they're actually people with good hearts, people that I love personally, and I think that there's a lot of light in them. Um, so okay, and that's not just the reflection of the light on Josh's head. That there's actually light within the guy, you know. So Josh, I wanted to invite you today to kind of help me with a project. Few almost a year ago, I announced a something called a engineering free speech, which basically allowing people to kind of spin up their own social network platform, and they can just find an instance in AWS, Azure, even host it on their own machines, and basically allow themselves to kind of crowdsource and kind of host communities where they can share ideas, photos, videos, and communicate with each other, and allowing them at the same time to kind of connect to other communities. So just to give you a little bit of high level of what I'm doing and what I'm up to. You know me, I love draw IO. I like to show my ideas this way, but I'll show you here just a quick overview of what we're trying to accomplish. And I'll tell you, there has been a lot of people that came, people from everywhere, really, Europe, all the way from Puerto Rico, people from Australia, people from all over the place came to help. So imagine this. Let's say you have this source code. Let's say this is Taarafo. Taarafo is an Arabic word that means get to know each other, right? So this is Taarafo source, right? So let's say there's a guy in Australia and there's a guy in Iowa and there's a guy in Germany, right? And each one of them have a different interest than the others, right? So each one of these guys can take a copy of Taarafo and spin up their own, community. So this can be soccer, Aussie community, right? And these guys, can basically spin up their own instance and they say, well, we are the, C sharp community, C sharp Germany community. Let's see, C sharp. Do I know how to write C sharp? Iowa community like this. And then you have a community in here that says, oh, well, we're the C sharp Seattle community, right? Now, each one of these guys can go and bring in their own friends, right? So these friends, you can have friends coming here, you have friends coming here and here and here. They're bringing their own friends, and they're basically connecting with each other through this social network platform. So each one of them is working with the social network platform. But let's say for at some point in time, let's say Josh, he hosts his own community and Hassan is in Seattle hosting his own community. And we said, hey, Josh, do you want to kind of connect to each other so the communities become friends with each other? It's like when you say, what do you call it? Like a family friend, but not one person, but two families that are friends with each other. So you go borrow salt from each other and, oh, do you guys have the lights are out? Do you have a generator? Or my Wi-Fi is down. Can I borrow your Wi-Fi? So they can actually, these two communities, with the permissions of the admins of these communities, they can actually engage on each other's posts and interact on each other's posts, right? Even though you're from a different community. Let's say the C Sharp Iowa community decided to spin up their own version of C Sharp and these guys disagreed with them. Very easy. Let's just cut the tie and keep us all far away from each other, right? This way, whatever your opinion is, whatever your thought is, whatever your leaning is, it doesn't matter because you will be able to kind of still host your own community. If marketers, let's say there's a marketer guy that wants to come and sell you on a new plugin, for Visual Studio, for instance, they can come and pay you and pay the other person instead of having one person in the Silicon Valley making trillions of dollars on the account of everyone else's account. Does that make sense? But also more important than this is that there's a lot of people out there. Like there's this lady that actually broke my heart. Do you remember G Plus? Do you remember Google
Mhm.
Plus?
Yep.
So a few years ago, you know that Google shut it down, right? Google is really great at, spinning up 100% projects and shutting down 99% of them. Even if some of them are showing a little bit of success, it doesn't matter. If it's not super successful, go ahead and shut it down. And we'll talk about that. But this lady, she gathered and she was able to attract 5 million subscribers. That's a lot of work and also a lot of money. Yeah, that could be a revenue for her. She's a content creator. She's providing some entertainment content. I think she was sharing something about, I honestly don't remember. Was it like handmade products or something like that? It wasn't really like a very niche kind of audience that will be interested in this particular thing, right? And then Google came and just shut down the entire site, right? And all of that, no apology, no compensation. It's not our problem. We spun up our own community and we shut it down, and that's it, right? What if that lady had their own community that she's hosting? Let's say she's basically hosting a community in a cheap cloud. Let's say she's paying $5 a month, right? And the more people come in, the more she can sell stuff, and now she can up. She's running her own business, but also at the same time she can connect to other communities that share the same values and share the same products, and then the world grows this way. Just how naturally the world works, Josh. There isn't like one king of the world that tells everybody what to say and what to say, put themselves as a moral authority to tell people what to say, what not to say. Instead, people just grow their own communities. They have their own countries, their own laws, their own regulations, their own rules, and they connect with each other, right? What do you think about that idea? Is that a great idea? Is that a good idea or a bad idea? What do you think?
It's interesting because you brings up, you answered several questions that I had, with the drawing and stuff. But like, I could see how, maybe I don't want to spin up my own community, but I trust Hassan, at least for today. And so I'll let Hassan spin up his community. I'll be part of his community until I want to split off everything. But then you talked about like advertisements and stuff. There's marketers that they could go in. So with somehow there's going to be some kind of distributed, like, catalog of what community and what they're involved in and whatnot and stuff, to where if you have a marketer, deal, that you can say, so and so wants to post ads on your space, which then could pay for hosting. And do you want to allow this type of ads to be on your platform? And then you get to have the permission or the ability to say yes or no. So not only can
Yep.
you control the content you're working with, but then the people that you're involved with, but you also have the opportunity to bring in advertisers and or ways to pay for it. But yet you can kind of control that too, because sometimes the ads that I get shown are just weird. You like
I,
it's just
I
like
I couldn't agree. I couldn't. Oh my God, you brought up a very good point. It's very frustrating and annoying point. For a while there, only monetized videos would show ads. Now, whether you're monetized or not on YouTube, they will show ads anyway. And sometimes these ads are quite, offensive to some people, right? People come in all different shapes and colors, right? They want different things. They are interested in different things. Some of these ads, like I can't have like a person, let's say, a rabbi or a Muslim person like myself, and the ad is selling me prosciuttos. I don't know what to do with that. I'm
or
like, I'm
if I'm on a diet and they're showing donuts, what am I supposed to do with that? I mean, like
right. So it's different, right? And it doesn't matter how much, you can employ AI machine learning to understand your audience. People are very different, and nobody can actually, manage that unless there's, a guardian, for a community. And let's say someone didn't like the guardian and they didn't like the group, they can just split off and go to another group and make their own community. Like you could be a one man community, that connects to other communities, and that's okay too. Like imagine this, you own your own social media presence from A to Z, right? So nobody at any point in time can shut you down because you can go in and out of any community you want without having your account being locked. So your content is still your content. Like let's say you have a timeline, right? And you're putting some really valuable things in these timelines, and maybe somehow you said something that some people didn't like, so they reported you and they shut down your entire account. All that work that you did, gone, and with no return. That seems like an abuse and a bad use of technology. And then I think social media needs to be rethought and re-architected in a way that can actually simulate and model reality than making its own thing. Technology usually fails when it tries to create its own reality than trying to model the human nature and simulate the human nature. And nothing is better than you understand this. People in Iowa were very nice and kind to me, just neighbor to neighbor. Hey, we need some stuff, we need that kind of thing. I want to bring that up at a scale and say, you are a community that we respect your content, and they are a community that we respect their content. Let's go out there and actually make this happen. Let's connect with each other and let's share our thoughts, our ideas. It also helps you be more secure. Let's say, let's say my family is on social network, your family is on social network. That means anybody, anywhere, can just approach them with the worst kind of thing, send them messages, or use their data. I think if we are really want to be good to our children and the next generation, we need to give them the ability to be able to protect themselves and gauge themselves from all that garbage that's out there, and only to be in control. It's like you're in your house and your door is closed, right? So if someone coming knocking your house, you're gonna look through the, what do you call it, Josh? The peephole. Peephole,
Yep.
is that what it is?
Yep. Looking
Uh,
glass
or,
people.
or,
Yep.
or the Ring app, I guess these days. You so you're looking through the door, and you're seeing whether you want to allow someone in your life or not. Today, when you're putting content out there on social media, there is no door, right? So anybody, anywhere. But what if I want to connect with my family? Like, let's say my family is overseas and I can't see them, and this is the only way we kind of share content. So we either expose ourselves all the way out to the world, or we can re-architect and engineer something that can actually help us all build something that is more protective of our families and protective of people, and allowing people to share their thoughts and opinions without fear of persecution or retaliation. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because you can take your preferences, your data with you, and but it also it kind of goes with you wherever you go.
Hmm.
But then you might be able to say that there's an official instance that you can get, opt into. Maybe you say, I don't care about my preferences, I'm just going to go with whatever the default is, or whatever everybody votes on it. Or you can have the fine grain controls over everything. I think it's an interesting concept where, I mean, Google and Facebook kind of has the idea that if you just say I've had enough, in theory, you can say, do my export, or what do you call it? Take out data or whatever and stuff, where you can
Hmm.
download everything
Like a
that
copy?
yeah
Yeah.
you've had, and it's supposed to be deleted. But
Yeah.
there's also a nice feature, I don't know if you've ever seen with Facebook. If you ever delete your profile, because I was like,
They
okay, I've
wait 30 days for
had enough
cooldown.
Facebook. Yeah, they wait.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's longer than that. But all of a sudden you come back and it's like, would you like to restore everything to where you can pick up right where you left off?
Right.
It's like, well, as if
Right.
my data was never really gone and stuff. So
And this is not really gone data. Also, the other thing is that you can take that data down, but you can't upload it anywhere else. Like, let's say you want to migrate to a new community, right? Taarafo, the point of it is that you can get a copy of your data and you can go anywhere else. It's like you're packing up and moving somewhere else. So your ideas are still coming with you. I've seen some people share some great things, and then imagine 5 or 6 years of content and material. You see my timelines. I always share videos and contents and quotes and all that kind of stuff. Something useful for people, right? But imagine you having to redo all of that from scratch. That just seems like a not very good way to build a social network platform. I was on a podcast the other day and people asked me, well, what do you get out of it? Well, I don't get anything out of it. I don't have to get anything out of it. Sometimes people will do things and they don't expect anything in return. Do you think that's possible?
well, I think that's possible, but I think that we can also get a lot out of it, because as we're going through it and stuff, I'm seeing all these puzzles. My brain likes to solve puzzles and
Oh,
stuff. And
Wordle,
yeah,
Wordle.
Yeah, this is just like
Everyone is playing Wordle these days.
this is just like a unlimited free puzzles because then you get to figure out like, okay, someone comes into the timeline. If you look at your timeline 1 second and then you add another timeline, somebody else's events are going to be woven into your timeline. Now that person goes to leave, the next time you refresh your browser or whatnot, that person's timeline events are now out of the browser. So from an engineering perspective on solving these and stuff, we got to say, okay, there's almost like a game server aspect. Like you can host your own game server
Mhm.
and have people connect to it. But what does that look like for people that are not techie? Like, do you want to download a executable and then run something? Do you want to click something on a website that
Yep.
does a bunch of DevOps? How do
Yep.
we do the networking to where it's something that you can, you know, we can get people not only interested in it, but also like right now, a lot of the like alternate social media things and stuff are weird. Like it's just like I have to do how many steps and how do I do this? And I mean, it wasn't too long ago that you were making fun of me because I didn't have WhatsApp on my phone and
Yep.
everything. I was like,
Yep.
it was just I have to download this thing and I have to scan these things and then I have to connect with people and then it wasn't syncing. I'm like, this is just I just weird. So there's a lot of engineering problems we can solve, but then there's also ways to get people engaged and stuff. So the idea is really cool. The engineering problems are really interesting, and to me, it lights up a whole bunch. So what do I get out of it? I get to be entertained for the next I don't know however long it takes to do this.
And more important than entertainment, and you guys gonna see this a lot. Like, I wish I could, or I had the liberty to record, pairing sessions with Josh McCall, and other, Kailu. You saw Vishwanatha. I wish I could show you like how a team can operate, and we might bring these clowns in. What do you think about that? Can we bring them in? We probably can. But anyway, the idea is, whoever you are, whatever you are, we want to build this community, of engineers that are trying to build open source, decentralized social media platform where people can even create their own kind of YouTube channels, following the same model, right? So they create their own video content platforms, and they can share with each other, and you can search through. I think Discord plays something like that. It's all decentralized, and you have to just kind of look for servers and stuff like that. So that's the dream, to allow people to kind of share content and material and be able to kind of freely express themselves. There are in a lot of places around the world, there are, dictatorships that don't allow people to say anything. They can't share their ideas, they can't do anything. We want to allow people to be able to, say whatever they want. And, that doesn't mean that they're not accountable. It just means that, they are offered the platform to share their ideas and share their thoughts. So let me ask you this. Any further questions about this? Anything else that you can think of, before we jump into the next stage of things?
Do you ever? I guess one idea is that you're having it separated from everything and stuff. But you also talked about like being able to like take your data with you. If you wanted to go from one social area to the other, what about interfacing with the existing social medias where you can have your data
Ah,
here, but it also propagates somewhere else? So what if I wanted to have a community that I would make my YouTube videos, but it also shows up on YouTube?
oh,
It's
nice.
able to
Integration.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's kind of you live kind of multi universes if you want to go
I love that.
comic books and stuff. But yeah, you could basically have a like there's a lot of social media content and creators and everything. They make it once, publish it everywhere.
Mhm.
But instead, you had to go out to all these different places and then manage all that data, and then your feed gets shut down. And I know that there's a lot of content creators on YouTube are saying, well, if you don't see me on this platform, check me out on this area. But there's got to be a better way to integrate with those platforms, and then be able to maybe programmatically pull your data out if you need to, or just give it a redundancy or a better experience and stuff. So it doesn't
Absolutely.
have to be a complete alternative to the social media. It could be
It
just
could be
a
another option,
yeah.
you know.
And
But
maybe if we do it right, then it would influence the other social medias. They're like, well, then if we don't follow this pattern, then everybody's going to migrate away from us anyway. So it would if we do it successfully enough, we could get the attention of the established social medias and maybe they'll adopt the same patterns and stuff. But
absolutely. Do you wanna take a look at the architecture? Do you wanna see how things look like?
of
Let me
course,
show
more
you what I
boxes.
have. More boxes. I know what you're doing. Keep doing it. So, so obviously, just like anything else, there's a core component. This is a core. This is Taarafo core API. right? Does that look familiar to you? And there is a simple storage that it's talking to. The storage is where everything goes for now, right? You have a simple a portal, and this portal basically communicates with this guy. You have the login, the registration, people coming in, user management, everything you can think of, right? So there's two portals really. There's the user portal, and there's something called the admin portal. That's the community admin. That's the admin that basically controls who stays, who goes, who's supposed to be, all that. So this is admin portal, and this here is the user portal. That's where you go in and basically log in and, view social media. But then there's also mobile apps. Of course there is, right? We want people to be able to kind of communicate on mobile apps and still communicate with this API and be able to read notifications and all that kind of stuff, right? There is a point in time where we're going to have a notification service that basically does a push notification. So this core service is going to put some queues, some messages on the queue to a notification service that will be notified. And then this will be Taarafo notification API, which basically communicates either sending emails. It has a bunch of brokers. It can send emails. It can do push notifications. It can do whatever it needs to kind of reach out to the audience, that they're trying to communicate with. So this is a simple, very simple, high level, perspective, and we want to allow people because of the standard. We want to allow people, the engineers that will want to spin this up. Of course, I want to make this so simple, a grandma in Nebraska can spin this up. I want it to be very simple. That you can think of a portal of all portals where you can go on the portal and say, okay, I'm going to pay that amount of money a month to spin up a community, but I don't have to know any code or any software engineering, right? So that's a third thing where you go and say, hey, you can spin up your own portal and you're responsible for it, right? So you're basically buying the instance for them, making the deployment for them, making sure it's up to date for them, and they're just going there and talking to each other, right? So you're not really hosting it, they're hosting it. You're just taking away the code part and the source controlled part, and you're just putting everything out there for them. So the commercialization and the marketing aspect of this is going to be also really important. But let me just show you where things at. We do have actually some models, like there's a development that happened here, here, and here. Let me mark those as orange just to show you that this is a work in progress, right? If you look at some of the stuff that Stanislav from Germany was working on. He actually did a lot of work. I really appreciate that guy, and he just had a baby, so he got a little busy, but he'll come back. He said, just give me a couple of months that I stabilize things, and I'll come right back to you. And it seems Josh, you seem you were in a very similar situation yourself, but if you look at the pull requests here. I can show you this is as far as we went. Like if you look at foundations, let's see, views, post ad. We should see something called components. And in the component, render post, something like this. Let's take a look at what he did. I think there's another one that he already merged, but this one is really beautiful. So this is his API. He's from Germany, so he's a little bit. I have to show you me running it. I can't just show you the. Oh yeah, that's why I shut it down because he put it in a this one here. Check this out, Josh. So he basically, there are posts, and these posts are rendering right under each other. Of course, this is a walk in the park for us. You already know that stuff. But, he went that far, right? All the way from the API that someone who just, introduced himself to the engineering standard like a month before, and he went all the way up to that point where he can actually render things. He even went a little bit further. Like he went after that and basically built, and Stanislav, if you're watching this, I want to tell you that you are awesome. He basically built a spinner component so he can actually, kind of render before the screen loads, more. And then there, he also went and put a base for the image. This didn't need it to be displayed, and then a bunch of other things. So anyway, the system at this moment in time, and you're familiar with this pattern, I think. Have you ever heard of the standard
Maybe.
before?
I think it rings a bell. It sounds
A
familiar.
little, just a little bit. So, so we went as far as building a timeline component that actually integrates with a a view post view service. It's pulling the views, rendering the views, showing the spinner. All of that is done, and also on the back end as well. So there are two projects here that I'm going to add you in. Are you interested? Do you want to play with me on this code?
Yeah, it sounds very interesting. And another thing that as you're going through the code, it kind of brings up is that if we have it as different packages, maybe one community will want a certain set of features
Hmm.
that the other community doesn't. But as you kind of pointed out, you mentioned the standard. And for those who don't know, we look at a certain way of writing our views, our brokers, our controllers, and it's kind of all standardized. And so if you pick out a repo and you can kind of follow along the pattern, then you can see someone who's like, hey, I know C sharp, or I'd like to learn C sharp. Look at the pattern, they'll be able to contribute to an existing project, or maybe even make their own package. And then you
Hmm.
can look at, pretty easily you look at the package and not only say, do I trust this person and their code, but I can go out and actually look at GitHub. And because it follows some of the same patterns in the standard, you'll be able to quickly say, okay, I know exactly what this code is doing. It's not doing anything weird, and it's written well, and I like what the
It's
feature
out
adds.
there. Like
Yep.
what you're spinning, like there's no games. I'm not gonna build some malicious data or malicious modules in the back end that is actually spying on you. I'm telling you, listen, man, you don't have to trust me. Here's the source code out there, and you spin it yourself. You can scan and look through every single bit of the system, and you tell yourself whether that code is actually looking at your data or not. And this is the important part, Josh. Snooping in people is not okay, and we're trying to kind of, you and I are, very God-fearing, I assuming, so we're not supposed to kind of build systems that allow people to kind of snoop on each other and look at each other and all that kind of stuff. Even in the admin portal capability, we're not allowing the admins to kind of, look at people private communications. That's not going to happen unless they go on the back end and try to look at the data and all that. But other than that, it's not a possibility. So okay, so we have all that. So here's what we're gonna do. So just for you guys to understand, just like most of the pairing sessions that I have, this one is a little bit on steroid because I know this guy for a very long time. Almost a decade or more. We've gone through so many things together, good and bad, travel, we went to different different states, and things changed all the time. Um, this is not just two engineers writing code. We will be talking about things. We will be discussing things. Josh also is very extroverted person. This is one of these unicorns that you find in the tech industry. He's smart. He writes code. He's a great software engineer. At Microsoft, and he runs his own things all the time. But also at the same time, he really loves people and he likes to talk. And maybe that's one of the reasons why we are very close to each other and we talk to each other all the time is because of that. I'd hate to show people our private messages going back and forth. That would be problematic, Josh. Do you think that would be a little bit
I,
that would be
I
a
don't.
little?
You're cutting out on the. I
Oh,
didn't hear that.
I couldn't hear any.
No, I like to tell people that I like to talk to computers and people. Like you can do both. And some people only can talk to computers or people, and that's why they have different job roles and stuff. But people who can talk to computers and people and then explain to each other what they're doing, there's a really good, there's a big need for that and stuff. And I think that's what Hassan has that skill set as well. He can bridge the gap between the business or the end consumer, but also the APIs and the message queues, and then can explain to each one. Okay, in the message queues, the business person wants this to happen, so I need you to do this, and then you can go to the business person and be like, you don't really need to know what a queue does, but I told it to what to do. So you got to be able to communicate and kind of translate between the two of them and stuff. But
Don't you also think, like, I feel like we're hitting so many different aspects here with content like this. So we're showing people newer technologies, newer patterns. We're learning ones ourselves in the process because we're going to run into situations where you want to pop up, a dialogue and you want to upload an image and you want to, leave a comment and all that. So there's a lot of these things that are going on. So there's a technology aspect of this. Hey man, you want to build an end-to-end system? I'm going to show you. The beautiful thing about the standard is that you can just follow through with one model and that would be enough for you to learn about the rest of the system. It's like DNA, right? You just follow one model, and the rest of the system is exactly the same. There's no magic there. There's some orchestrations that will happen here, some coordinations that will happen here. It's all test driven, and I can't wait to show you the stuff that Eagle Hansen I had a conversation with them and we had an open issue. You can now mock base components. So you can actually stub them. There's some really crazy stuff going on. I can't
At
wait.
what level? Okay, I need to nerd out a little bit and stuff. Is it what level can you stub them? Because that's the one big thing when Blazor came out, is that the ability to, you basically in React terms, you could only, you once you rendered it, it was the full render tree. So if you've got a very deep tree, you
Uh-huh,
had to render all the way down, and you had all the
uh-huh.
dependencies that, and that was very difficult to have a good test case.
It's bad. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's ways you could do it, but you had to kind of rethink the way you wrote a test. But if you're able to do basically a shallow mount,
That's it.
a
That's it.
shallow
That's what he's
rendering
doing.
or a full mounting rendering, then it gives you
Yep.
the flexibility to either scope at or test at a unit level or at an
Or
integration level
integration
between your
end to end.
components.
Yep. Yep.
That's
Yep.
huge. So
This
I mean,
this is it. This is it. Let me show you just that part just so you understand. Let me show you the problem that you and I you already know very well that we have. Normally, and this is some of the other projects that I have, if you look at the unit test, your unit test is not supposed to, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit because some people watch this on their phones and it becomes really hard for them to kind of,
I
you
just got
know,
a new phone. It's like a tablet. You can have it very small, but
what? Did you get the foldable
no, I just have I ordered it online, the new iPhone, but I didn't know. I was like, should I get the Max or should I get the non-Max? And the Max
obsession?
shows up, and it's like a small iPad Pro, like it's which is like a normal iPad.
It's
So like
huge.
it's huge, and like
So let me show you. All of this you don't need anymore because you're dealing with a base component. So you don't need to know what your base component. It's like you're calling a storage broker. You don't care whether it's using the entity framework or calling Dapper or whatever the case may be. So he went and did this unit stub. And it solved a lot of these problems. I'll even share. I actually, it's funny. It popped up the video, stopping components in Blazor with BUnit. I'll show you a piece in here that's really gold. So look, I started getting
really
rid
this is
of.
just you promoting your own video at this point.
Yep,
So
yep. That's literally, yep, yep, yep. That's the point, right? So actually, there is a piece in here. I actually put, I think I put a link in here. Yeah, there it is. Hold on. So check this out, Joshua. So is that a branch? I think that's a branch. So let's go into web units and then go into views and then student registration component. And then on that level, I think, no, it's not that one. Okay, that's okay. Let me just go here and say bunit stub. It's funny that it's bringing me like literally the second. I don't know if he actually documented it. Let's see, stub component.
there's a link at the bottom.
Yeah, let's see. Built-in factory stopping mocking component. Yeah, he did. He did. Uh, he kept calling it mocking and stubbing, and I said to him, let's get rid of the word stubbing because we're actually appealing to more of a back-end engineers. And he's a very sweet human being. I wish, I brought him on my channel once. I wish he's probably gonna jump in one of these times and just comes and chats with because he's very tentative too, Josh. Like he's not someone that says, "Oh, this is a library, deal with it." No, he will watch every video, he will read every comment, he will follow up on every issue. He loves this. It's not even like a full-time job for him, man. This is passion, right? So anyway, this is what he's doing. He goes and says component factories add stub, and let's say that bar is what we call a base component.
Mm-hmm.
And now you get to control how that bar behaves too. Like you get to go and say when this bar is being called, you can even create one on the fly, which is not something I subscribe to, but he's saying I can create one on the fly and tell you what that one on the fly would look like. Like he injects HTML in the type.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, this guy is good. This guy is smart.
So one of the patterns that for React would be if you pass in a component to be able to render as a child, then you
Hmm.
can pass in like a dummy component. But the way that Blazor works, it's using the dependency injection and saying that when at runtime, this is the component that I'm going to run. And so you're just saying instead of doing a shallow render where like don't render the children, you can say no, I want you to go ahead and render the children, but I want you to render this version of the children, or I'm going to stub it out and
Yep.
mock it and say, well, we're not going to render the actual one that has a dependency,
Yep.
but we're going to do a test double or a mock and
Yep.
everything and stuff. So
Yep.
that's huge. I mean, I remember when we kind of were
Do you
looking through the
remember?
source code
Yeah.
and trying to figure out how to do that and stuff, and we just heard like it's coming. Don't just wait, it's coming.
Just wait. Yep.
So
Yep. Do you remember? And I also remember you trying. You did something pretty cool too. Do you remember when you turned base components into interfaces?
mhm.
I really appreciate you, man. I really appreciate the stuff that you do. It's very like you were already forward thinking. You know, I only just told Eagle, I only told him what you were saying when we had these discussions. I just said to him, you know, this buddy of mine, he went and actually made it in interfaces to make it even more appealing to a generation of engineers that hated the UI development just because of how complicated it is today in terms of JavaScript, you know, and React. And nothing against React. I know you love React, you know how to use it, but you know, you don't just know how to use it. You know how to, you know, you do the whole thing. You're an expert level at this point. But I like to lean more towards Blazor because you know me very well. I like things more precise, more specific. One language fits all. Like if you're gonna do React, then do Node.js. If you're gonna do Blazor, then do C Sharp ASP.NET API. If you have two different teams and they have different preferences, that's okay. I can respect that. But switching context like this all the time, that just drives me nuts. That just makes me really irritated. In Eagle's own words, he said, "I may not agree with your style or your standard, but I have to give you that you are very consistent. And consistency is king when it comes to not the kind of consistency that Oscar Wilde talks about. Consistency is the last refuge for the unimaginative, but more like consistency in terms of I want it to be easy for people to just hop in into the project and maybe drive their own evolution. You know, the in Sean Hobbs' own words, you know, he was working and looking at the standard. He said to me something to the effect of, "I'll bring him to the channel, you guys. You don't know that guy yet, but he's a very smart engineer as well." One of the things that he said was, I get it now. The standard, the only things that's standardized about your standard is that there is no standard. It keeps changing and evolving, and you're just trying to communicate a message to the engineers that keep evolving, keep
Well,
pushing forward.
you've heard of the convention versus configuration, right? So like a lot of like if you think of Angular or you think of Ember or like or even .NET Framework or whatever, these are all conventions. They're scaffolding things a certain way, whatever. Versus configuration, the king of configuration is React. Like no two projects are ever the same
Hmm.
because like if you follow the docs on React, it's like a create React script that will generate your project. And then step
Hmm.
number two is here's how to eject to get out of the React scripts and then go mess with things on your own. So like
Love it.
everybody has different configurations. The standard, I think, I was trying to pin it on one of those two. Well, it's definitely not configuration because you're following a standard, but you're not definitely not. It's not also not a convention because the convention always changes. So it's convention by configuration or configuration by convention. I don't know. It's kind of a hybrid between the two of them. But we also started talking about like having a diverse set of skills or jumping around between different projects. One of the things I thought was really odd when I first started in technologies mounts between the different jobs. I didn't have like some people knew every API of Java. I knew enough to get things done, but there was always another guy that would like just memorize things and get things done. But as you go through different technologies, you're like, oh, this pattern is in this language, this pattern is this in this language. So by the time you add up all these patterns, you're like, this new Blazor thing is really cool. But what about this? If we could get the one pattern that I like, there's a lot of patterns in React that I like, but if you could get this pattern out of React
Yep.
that I
Yep.
like, then you can put it with Blazor. It'd be awesome. And then we could avoid the pattern that, causes issues and you can combine those
Yep.
and whatnot. And I heard another quote. I was reading another take a different language on front end development, and they were basically bashing JavaScript. And they said the current world of JavaScript, because you have to have your, how do you do your CSS, your components, your state management, your asynchronous calls, your interface with your APIs, your deployments, your all your CDN busting, all the cache busting and everything and stuff. They basically said, and then on top of that, once you get your application deployed, it has to run on somebody's outdated laptop or phone or whatever and stuff. So
Yep.
like
Yep.
the thing that controls your entire state of your
Is the
application
client.
is the client. You're running
Yep.
on the least capable machine. And they
Yep.
said, it used to be front end development was just about about making a website and making it, pretty and doing things or whatever and stuff. And now as it's controlling a lot of the flows and your actual business logic and everything, no front end web application or nothing that is using React is now just a client side application. It's actually a distributed system
Yep.
that you're working with. So then you have to look back and say, okay, well, do I want this overhead of a distributed system on the front end? So one of the cool things about Blazor is we can look at, okay, here's the ups and downs and the trends that React has kind of done and different configurations and patterns that everybody's been doing. We're going to step back and say, okay, if we could do it again, what would we like to do? And with some of the trends that people keep bouncing back and forth between client side rendering, server side rendering, and whatnot, Blazor gets you an opportunity to say you can do both.
Yep.
The
Why
default,
not both?
yeah,
With the like the meme. Why not both?
yeah, the default
Uh,
is server side, but we can do client side if we want. There's all kinds of trade offs. But I think it's cool that Blazor is kind of this greenfield project where it's kind of like, okay, we want to appeal to C# developers. We want to not reinvent the wheel. We want to take, leverage the patterns that we've had before, and we're seeing that it's catching up in that, the development experience, the user experience, the implementation and stuff. So it's a really cool kind of space right now where it's not trying to compete with other languages. I don't feel, because you can, and they just announced in the .NET 6 announcement where you can integrate with your web components, your React, your Angular, and everything. So it's they're not trying to say this is the new thing to rule it all. They're saying we're
it's saying
giving
it's
you
an option.
options, and this is how we would set it up if we were going from greenfield. So you get to borrow all, long-winded rant. We get to borrow all those patterns and all the best pieces, and then put it into an ecosystem that, like you said, if you're in a .NET ecosystem, you have C# on the back end. Now you have the ability to do C# on the front end. You get to leverage the patterns of that we've been able to do with, for the last 5-10 years with, we're now inside C# with Blazor, and you can interface with the React and all those things and stuff. So it's actually pretty. I think it's pretty exciting that to see it evolve and see the direction it's going. But okay, rant
Yeah,
over. But
yeah, absolutely. Speaking of which, I've been meaning to show you this. There is this actually, you said back end, front end. Did you know that you can also write C sharp now in IoT, like actual hardware? There's this really cool, I think the company's in Colorado, Josh, I don't remember, but I follow them. I really like their content, and let me try to just find it for you. Um, let's see, C sharp. Just a second. C sharp
well,
IoT.
while you're looking that up, the one thing I'm actually really looking forward to is actually the Blazor components inside your mobile apps as well and stuff. So you can kind of have that consistent,
Yeah,
your uh,
Maui, is
yeah.
that Maui? Uh-huh. Yeah, absolutely. This is also, I'm sorry, go ahead, Josh. You were saying. Go
Oh,
ahead.
so now you can have your server side Blazor rendered. You can have your client side rendered Blazor. You can have it hosted on a CDN. You can have it embedded into an app. And I'm sure there's probably ways to put Blazor inside of an IoT device, which is not a thing because you're not going to have a front end component on an IoT.
Nope, just C sharp, just C sharp. But this is the thing. This is what I was trying to say. There's this company, and I for the life of me, I think that I might have I might have not saved the link somewhere, but there's a bunch of companies that will go and say, okay, you can have Arduino IDE or Visual Studio, right? And you can actually program a circuit, right? And I'm trying to apply the same ideas of the standard to hardware circuits. Like any hardware circuit has an output, like a lid, like a light, right? And you have input, which is like a broker that actually reading your input, your stream. But also at the same time, you have this core gates, right? You have these little gates. What do you call them, Joshua? Is it like switches or something like that? So you basically just go and upload C sharp code to it, and you can actually run your C sharp code on the IoT device. I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was really amazing. There's actually a company, I don't know why I can't find them, but they do some amazing work around that, and I can't wait to kind of. I'll try to share the link. I'll try to find the link and share it. They do a lot of pretty cool stuff, and why is this important and cool to be able to program microchips and stuff like that? Is because you're basically taking that amazing Hello World console app of yours and you're putting it out there in your bottle. Remember this, you can actually have like you guys, this is actually a smart device that you can put at the bottom here, and it helps you and your friends actually know how much consumption of water you have and whether your bottle is low on water and all that kind of stuff. That's what this is. You can build really fancy, nice things that people can actually use in the real world, but also allows your code to get outside of this monitor, like you're outside of this screen and you're out there in the world and you're actually physically changing things. So anyway, just to, I really appreciate you taking the time. Josh and I planning to kind of have one of these sessions at least once a week, at least. And then, basically, we're gonna try to continue this development activity in building a decentralized social network platform. And while we're doing it, just like you're saying, we could talk about 5 or 10 different topics, and somehow they might be all related or not. Who knows, But at the end of the day, it's just a discussion that you will come out with something out of it. Josh, I sent you invitation to the both of the repositories. It's called Taarafo Web and Taarafo core. And I look forward to hanging out with you next week. I look forward to, and this is just an advice for all of you out there. If you have someone that you really appreciate and is a good friend with, create a cause. Just create a cause and just go there. If I'm building a decentralized social media platform that allows people to connect with each other, I'm going to use that very same platform to connect with my friends and actually hang out with them, and also at the same time be able to kind of build something that's useful for us, our children, maybe next generations to come. And just so you understand, I don't care if you take that idea of that project, go build it on your own. I'm not worried that people would take ideas that I come up with. I worry when they stop, because when people stop taking these ideas, that probably mean I either ran out of ideas or people just don't want to, take a good idea forward. What do you think about that, Josh? Does that sound like a plan?
No, it sounds great. You can steal the idea as long as we can integrate with you, so then we can leverage the idea. But no, I think just like our normal pairing sessions are a little bit like this conversation. A little bit, it kind of rambles in different directions, but it's focused in a certain area. But we found that even though it kind of is chaotic or kind of go in certain directions, we will be challenging each other to make write better code, and we end up getting
Get
faster
shit done.
throughput,
Yep.
faster feedback and stuff, and it ends up being a better product on the way out. So no, we were on a team together. We're no longer on a team together. So this is I get to get my Hassan time back. I got to work on the standard. It sounds like a fun idea. I think it'll be cool. And then especially if people can see whether good or bad, whether this is kind of how we worked at on Microsoft and stuff, and how we kind of prefer to work as more social in a team setting, be able to challenge each other and stuff. So maybe people will get some good out of it, and I like the idea. So I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joshua. It's been a pleasure. Always fun and a pleasure to hang out with you, my friend. I look forward to meeting you in person sometime, and we can hang out and go eat food and, just see what's going on. And I appreciate you taking the time. I know this is weekend and with family and stuff. I appreciate you kind of, committing to time like that. And of course, just you guys watching us, I will drop some links for Joshua's, GitHub account, LinkedIn, Twitter, the works, Facebook, whatever you want to, follow him there. He makes a lot of interesting, he shares a lot of interesting material. Josh is a lot of things. One of them happened to be an engineer, but also a very kind human being, a great friend. Thank you so much, my dear friend, my brother. I'll look forward to connecting with you later. And for people that are watching us, if as usual, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to drop a comment in the comment section as usual. Don't forget to what, Josh? Don't forget to what?
I don't know. There's like buttons involved. What's it? I don't know.
Just something around. Is it subs? I can't say.
Comment, downvote,
Comment,
upvote, probably upvote. Yeah,
downvote. That's it. That's it. Downvote and unsubscribe. Is that what it is?
I think it's it. That's it.
Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in another session. Take care, Joshua.